So Linda, you're the mom that's been doing this for 18 years minus 3 weeks. I forget how you heard that we even had an adolescent palliative care clinic. But when did you start thinking that that might be appropriate for you and Elena?
When we were down at Duke Hospital, they started giving us a few options because Ina's heart is pretty well shot, and most of the options were not good. And fortunately, the doctor that we've worked with all these years was very honest and upfront. And he told us, he said, you can do this, and here are the risks. And I just, quality of life is really important. And that's kind of been our lead star, you know, let's do whatever it takes to have a healthy life for her. And then he was very open and upfront, and I said, so really we don't have any good options, right? And he said, yeah, we don't have any good options. And so I came back home and I was really upset. And I started talking to some friends, and I have a good friend who's a nurse on peds. And she said, oh, well, you should talk to the palliative care doctor, you know. And she told me about you. And it took a while to get in because she, you know, isn't a patient, an inpatient. But the thought of not having a long and drawn out end to this great story just was very appealing to me.
When did the specific idea, well, first I should mention that it sounds like you were very appreciative of the physician, the cardiologist, and how both direct and sounds like very compassionate the physician was in describing what essentially is the prognosis.
Right. I'm kind of a tough cookie from being through all this. So I ask very direct questions. And I think it's important to do that. You know, if you want to know something, you're going to have to ask. You're going to have to get your courage up. Even if it's an answer you don't want, you're going to have to ask that question. And when I asked him the questions, I watched him just stand there, and he paused, and he looked right into my eyes, right into my soul, and he just said, this is what's going on. Mm. And that's when it's like you said earlier, you know, it's like this is the beginning of our freedom. In a way, it's like, okay, there's not anything else we can do. So now we get to live, you know? Now it's like the fear of going back in the hospital, fear of another surgery, another intervention, that big risk that she could die on the table, that's gone. It's all gone. And I feel like my life has gotten immeasurably better. I've watched her just, I mean, you know, she's remarkable. She's remarkable. Did I answer your question?
You did.
Okay.
I think maybe sometimes we as physicians are as uncomfortable with giving bad news, not as uncomfortable as the people receiving it, but we don't like it.
Sure.
You know, we all, I think, get into this profession to get people better. So when the news we're giving isn't in line with that, it's uncomfortable. And it sounds like this particular physician, probably despite that, had the courage and the compassion to give you exactly what you needed at exactly that moment.
Well, there was a little pause. You know, there was a little pause where he kind of thought about it.
Sure.
You know, and then I just let him, he needed the time to get the words together. I could see he was uncomfortable, but then he shared it with me. So it was powerful. It was a powerful day. June 6th.
Of this year, just a couple months ago.
No, of last year.
Of last year,
Yeah.
a year ago. What? When did this specific concept of do not resuscitate start becoming a?
She's always said, I don't want to die in a hospital. I want to die with my feet in the ocean. You know?
I have said that.
I want to be here. I want to do this. She's always like not had any fear of talking about death because it's always been like right there.
Mm.
You know? The nurse is the one that told me that you can get a legal document to guarantee that you don't have to have this grueling, uncomfortable end-of-life experience that a lot of people have.
So when did the talk about the legal document happen between the two of you? And
I kind of gently broached the subject over time. And then when I told her that there was actually something that...
Legal.
Yeah, that she was like, oh, can we get one of them? You know, she was like, she was all over it. And I wasn't sure she was going to be. And telling her dad was very difficult. Because he could have opposed it.
But he
Because she was
done that.
underage. But I was afraid he might.
Yeah, but
But it all worked out. I mean, when we came into your office, it was Ina and myself and my ex-husband. I was so frightened, and it was the first time that we've all been on the same page. In
It
a
was.
long time.
Mhm.
did you? I think I know the answer to this, but did you have a fear that when you started the conversation about a legal do not resuscitate document, did you have a fear that, or a worry that you might be leading the conversation?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I thought, you know, I'm real clear on this. Maybe I'm crazy. You know, maybe... Can you scratch that?
Well, she's a little crazy, but that's okay.
I'm crazy. Let's not put on
I actually think it's validating because you're not the only person that has this going through their head.
Right. It's like, when I first considered it, I was very self-conscious because I was thinking, this is my desire. Is this really the right thing to do?
Mm.
You know, I've always advocated for her. I've done everything possible in my life to get her through these surgeries, to help her to recover. You know, after every surgery, there were nightmares that went on for months. You know, it's just, we just went through it. We just kept going, just kept doing it. But when we got to this point, I was really concerned that I was being selfish. And
Selfish in not wanting that suffering to happen any further.
well, selfish in letting go of life. You know, it's like, she's going to die. Why does it have to be miserable? It doesn't have to be miserable. And the doctor down at Duke said her heart is shot. You know, we can go in there. We're not going to be able to fix anything. There've been too many surgeries. There's too much scar tissue. You know, we can hardly pace her. You know, and is this okay? I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's fine.
See
Go
how
ahead.
cool? You give me a lot of freedom to just function. And so, just saying, okay, we're good. Let's stop. You know, let's stop while we're ahead. And when we came to see you, and you said, okay, let's talk about death. Let's focus on life. My whole life's changed since that appointment. It has. I mean, I started taking a spin class. I started like working out, and I've lost all this weight, and I feel healthy, and I'm dating, and I don't put that on the tape either. But it's like a lot of stuff. There's been a lot of freedom since we got the DNR.
Good.
Yeah, and we've told a lot of people about it.
And that's again, few people go around saying, can I tell you about this story? My daughter's a DNR. Can I show you my dad? Look at this.
That's practically what I did. I like ran in the house, like, Dad, look! And I got out of my wallet and I showed it to him, and I was really excited. And he was like, kid, I don't really think you should be excited for that. And I was like, but why? This is really awesome. And it took him a couple of days, and that's like earlier what I said to him. And he accepted it after that. But at first, everyone was a little stunned that I was that excited about a DNR. But I wasn't, but I mean, everyone else was, so.
I called him on the phone, and I said, David, you okay with this? And he said, she's suffered enough. I thought, cool, that's cool. You got it.
Well, it might not be the right thing for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and probably at some point in our life it's right, and before that it's not right.
Mm-hmm.
It can change. But I just imagine that it has to be helpful for other people to hear how it was right for you all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's incredibly powerful to hear both Elena's side as the patient and Linda, your side as mom, and how you work together through it, and how it is all about how are we going to use whatever time we have
Mm-hmm.
to live the way we want to live.
Yeah, it really is. It took away that little edge of fear. We have to do everything right. Now
I learned that we had to do everything right when I was in 3rd grade.
Couldn't make many mistakes.
No. Couldn't. And a close friend of mine that was Downs died when I was in 3rd grade. She had the same heart defect as me, and that's when I realized I can't do anything. There's no room for mistakes, and I think I went a little overboard at times on that for myself, and it's one of those things that's kind of, it still doesn't make sense to me why I did everything right and I still have trouble letting myself, relax a little bit. That's really hard for me to do.
That's a nervous system.
Yeah, I know.
It's
But it's
post-traumatic
still hard for
stress.
me to do.
Yeah,
So.
it's still hard. I mean, we both have PTSD. Woohoo.
Well, and like a lot of children and families who have been fighting with chronic illness
Mm-hmm.
for the entire life of the child, in a certain mode, in a certain way, that's fighting. I mean, you talk about your nervous system, right? You're like that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And for some families every day. And to open a gate and make a different decision and have that freedom is wonderful. But it seems to me you might have to be a little bit patient to let everything that was holding you back before kind of fall away
Yeah,
all at once anyway.
it's hard to do that.
But she's doing great. It's like when she gets triggered, she'll be like, I'm triggered. And she's like, you can see in her face, she's in terror. And, it's just, she's done counseling. She knows to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
She brings herself back. It's like, reel it in, I do the same thing. I can hear an alarm go off in the hospital and I'm in a cold sweat. It's like, relax.
Mm.
Be here now. That was then. We both.
I love the sounds of the beeping machines in the hospital. I really do. It's like such a comforting sound. It's like hearing a clock for like puppies or something like that. I don't know that book Charlie and Me or whatever it was.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know what we're talking about, but
We're just going on and on. You can edit this.
Well, any other thoughts you might have from a parent's perspective about what would you say to another parent who's starting to think about these kind of issues around end of life, and specifically whether or not to engage with a do not resuscitate order? Is there anything you would say to them?
I would say, don't worry about what other people think. You know, do what feels right to you for your child. You know when you're at that point that you could keep pushing and pushing because your family expects you to push, or your church expects you to push, or your culture expects you to push. But you reach a certain point and it's like, okay, this is an ethics issue, and you're the parent and you make that decision. It's like, let's soften this. Let's stop pushing so hard. Put the child in first place. Put the needs of the child first.
and also ask the child what the child wants, because a lot of the time,
some kids have more fight in them than their parents do.
and well, not just that, but some of them are scared to say what they really want to their parent because they're afraid of what their parents would say, because they love them so much and they want them to stay alive, but they also don't know exactly what the parent's answer is going to be or not.
Okay.
Like, you always have to ask the children and what they want
Yeah.
as well.
Good advice.
Yeah. I'd say just don't let fear be what leads you. Let love be what leads you. That's really what it's about.